to the Finance Show with Joe. He's Joe. I'm just some schmo. Today, we're going to be talking about the budget. Just came out.
More specifically, we're going to be talking about the winners and losers of the Australian budget. Every year, basically, whichever party is in power, this time it's the Labor government, their treasurer, the PM, everybody gets together and they formulate the budget, what we're going to be spending on for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
And every year there's big winners, there's big losers, and there's a whole lot of PR in between.
It's true. Yeah. A lot of this is some of election promises and, almost promises for the next election as well.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And Albo's been under fire, mainly by me. No,
It's mainly by you.
no, but he's been under fire for the last 12 to 18 months. It all started really with the vote, the plebiscite that we had.
Oh, The Voice.
Yeah, The Voice.
The Voice that was doomed to fail because no one wanted to explain what it was.
Nobody knew what it was. And he's been, really losing points significantly. Like whenever you go to the polls, it looks like that Labor won't have a majority party for the next election.
No, the only party that's growing in favorability is the Greens.
Yeah, which is surprising to me.
I think it comes from a younger generation, mostly millennials and Zoomers at this point now as well. They're just frustrated with Labor and Liberals being much of the same with each other. Yeah, there's differences, but majority of the time it's mostly the same.
They're exactly the same people.
Yeah. They're not much different.
Whether it was Labor or Liberal, I would be hammering whoever the Prime Minister is.
And that's a good thing to do. You don't want to just swallow everything that they take. And it doesn't matter if you're affiliated with them either.
That's exactly right. But I really want to get into this. First, let's talk about the big winners. Okay, let's start off positively. Okay.
Yeah.
So who are our big winners?
Well, defense, obviously, that's almost always a big winner, but especially now with all the wars going on, $139 billion is directly for defense. That's we're building boats, lots of them, and a lot of long-range stuff and logistics and robots and all that sort of stuff.
So whenever the budget comes out, there's always a lot of money that's spent on defense.
Always, yeah.
Australia's got a really big border, like just circumference-wise.
And not a big population to defend it.
That's exactly right. So I never mind when we spend money on defense. And the great thing about defense is the army employs a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it does give a lot of direct benefits to Australians that go through the system. You can go through university.
Yeah.
You can learn a trade. You can earn such a good wicket, and you're applicable for particular home loans that
Oh, I didn't know this.
that a lot of other individuals aren't, simply just by being a part of the army. I think it's like 2% less. I don't quote me. I'm not 100% sure because I can't offer it. But there are some direct to army mortgages that are out there, and they do get a lot of benefits. So seeing the budget, so much of it allocated to Australian defense, that does make me happy. There's certain things I'm going to rant about, and I'm going to be pissed off about, and there is going to be a TikTok camera involved in them, but this is not one of them. I'm happy with this result.
Yeah, and look, just given the global climate with things like just everyone's sort of fingers are on the trigger, for a lot of things. I think that'll put a lot of people's anxiety at ease, at least a little bit.
A smidge.
That's just a smidge. I don't know.
I think because we're also so isolated from the rest of the world.
Yeah, or at least the current conflicts that are happening. But if, should China try do the Taiwan invasion, which they are clearly planning, then it's a bit more iffy for us.
Yeah, definitely. But it's something that we have to deal with when we get there.
Yuck, you got to have a stick to defend against the guy with another stick.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Winner number 2, big manufacturing.
Yeah, and it's not manufacturing of goods really. It's manufacturing of basically renewable infrastructure, batteries, solar panels, wind farms, all that sort of stuff. The goal, what have they called it? They call it the Future Made in Australia program. So basically, they want to lay the foundation for Australia to become a renewable energy superpower. And what they mean by that is we will create all this energy, renewable energy in whatever capacity, but seemingly mostly solar because huge amounts of desert.
Yep.
Transport that to first our major cities and towns and stuff like that, and via technology and in battery and storage, we will sell that energy to whoever wants it. But that also doesn't mean it's very critical that they've included critical minerals still, refining and such. And I was like, critical minerals, and what did you say?
It's just coal.
Yeah,
it's just coal.
It's PR for coal and oil.
Yeah, that's all it is. So off camera, we were just kind of, briefing each other. I was asking Michael, I go, so who is the big winner? And he goes, oh, there's critical minerals in here. And I go, it's coal. It's just
coal. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's coal, it's oil. That's what they're mining out of the ground.
Yeah.
We have a ton of it.
Yeah, we have a ton of it. And honestly,
more than a ton, but like we've got, if it was just a ton, we'd be pretty shit. But no, we've got a lot of coal just under the ground in Australia. And, unfortunately, a lot of it is privatized. It's not publicly owned. No. And, good old Gina, she gets so much money from these sort of things.
And she has the balls to be angry about a painting.
Yeah, that's another story for another time, Michael.
Yeah, I know.
But yet again, I like this as a winner. I like the fact that we're spending on renewable energy. Whether anyone likes it or not, it's the direction we are headed.
It's true, yeah.
Petrol costs $2.20 a litre. For me to fill up my tank of petrol, I have to drive to Oran Park and back almost every day. And then I have to live maybe drive to the gym or the grocery store. I get through 1.5 tanks of petrol a week, and that's costing me about $250. That's so much money in petrol. And that's
so glad to catch the train.
That's not fair to me. And that's not fair to the Australian public that I have to spend so much money on petrol, especially because we've got the fuel excise in. But seeing them put so much money into renewable energy, into solar, into the wind farms, the only thing I really hope is they don't F it up when it comes to privatization.
Oh, I hope not, because we've clearly seen that privatizing our grid has been. Why do you think your energy bills are going up?
Yeah. Which is it's just, I really hope that they structure this in a sound way. Obviously, we've got a bad track record when it comes to energy providers and resource providers in Australia, but I just hope this is the one that, okay, you know what? We're going to keep it as government, because we've got a lot of desert.
We've got a lot of desert. It's not being used for anything else. You're not ruining any communities, as far as I'm aware. There's no one there. And if you're worrying about, I know some people complain about solar farms that they're ugly. There's no one there. You're not looking at it.
Is that what people complain about?
I've heard people, boomers, I've heard them complain about it. I'm like, that's such a poor argument for that.
That is a horrible argument to not utilize something.
Coal plants aren't pretty either.
Yeah.
Neither is a coal mine. I don't know what the difference is.
No, that's just ridiculous.
Energy's not pretty. Anyway, that stuff's good. I'm just glad we're diversifying our grid. I do agree that, we should look into nuclear as well. The only issue with nuclear is that it's super expensive and will take a very long time. I think the CSIRO did a cost analysis, and it was like 19 billion for one station, and it would take 10 years to even get it going. We started too late, basically.
Yeah, we did. Our wage costs are through the roof, and to build anything like that, first of all, you have to build a nuclear station like that safely.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want a Chernobyl in Australia.
No one wants that.
But just to see them going in that direction, I hope we've got so much uranium.
That's the thing. It's one of the only things I've ever agreed with Peter Dutton about. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, we should consider it. Should we rely on it? And probably not. Yeah. Again, the expense, the cost, and the time it would take to build. But this is good, because everyone thinks, or at least some people seem to think, that focusing on renewables means absolutely all fossil fuels will disappear and we'll be relying on the sun and the wind. And what happens when there's no sun and no wind? This the desert, there'll be sun.
I've always had a weird question to ask when it comes to oil and when it comes to petrol. What happens if oil runs out and we haven't found a renewable source for airplanes?
That's why they are Boeing and Rolls-Royce are heavily looking into hydrogen as a result of that, because hydrogen is renewable.
But that's so hard to store.
Yeah, that's the problem that they're having.
Yeah.
But they're looking into it because they do know, whether or not it's in our lifetimes, the next lifetime, I don't know when oil's going to run out. Nobody really knows, but it will run out eventually. Yeah, I know, right? Because there was that oil crisis in the 70s. We did think that's what Mad Max is about.
Yeah.
That's how that world goes into post-apocalypse. They run out of oil. We just don't know. And there's always a new reserve that they find. But even the Saudis and a lot of those oil-rich countries now are looking for ways to diversify their economies because they also know that the oil will run out eventually. Yeah. Are we close?
We don't know. But yeah, it's just, I've always thought to myself, what would happen to globalization and transport if oil began? Like, how would you get a plane to be an electric plane?
Yeah, so far they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah.
Because not commercial size. Yeah, batteries are heavy. The planes need to be small for the battery to power it at all and to lift it off the ground. We'll probably go back to the 1800s, go back to shipping. Everyone's doing boats again.
At least there won't be jet lag.
Yeah, look at the positives.
I just want to highlight something. I spoke about it, I think, 2 episodes ago, but they wanted to change all the buses in Brisbane to be electric buses. But the bus itself would then carry 55% less passengers. No, it was 35% less passengers.
Yeah, because they gotta put the batteries in, and I think their buses couldn't be as large, like physically large.
That's exactly right. So they've got a serious issue on their hand when it comes to air travel, and I hope that all this push towards, you know what I want them to do? I want them to come out and explain it, guys. We need you to go out and buy an electric car and put a solar panel on your roof, because if you don't, there's a chance you can't fly to Italy for the summer. And I can guarantee you...
Take away the holidays.
I can guarantee you all the Italian wogs would be like, no. Like, it would hurt them, but they would do it because they'd be like, I need to go to Sicily. I need to eat meatballs. Try and convince the Lebs that they can't go to Lebanon for the summer and spend all their money there. Try and convince them that it would hurt them physically. But once you break it down, like, guys, let's use the fuel for planes and use the solar panel on your roof with an EV car to travel around Oz. I guarantee you, like, I'm talking like 25% of wogs, like you've convinced them right then and there to go electric. And that's a huge percentage.
Yeah, you won't convince the crows, I don't think.
Try and convince them that they're not going to get Chavapi and Ajar or however you pronounce it.
Oh my God, Ava, yeah.
Let's talk about some PR stunts.
Yeah, we got to admit that the energy bill rebate is a bit of a PR stunt.
No, I'm going to go into losers. That's losers, okay?
Okay.
So I want to go into the PR stunt. Hex.
Yeah, look, it's a PR stunt because you can say, what is it, like $3 billion has been wiped, of debt has been wiped, but you're still getting indexed.
No, but the debt only existed because of an
oversight, really.
An oversight by the Australian government. So let me explain to all our listeners. HEX was indexed to the CPI previously. And being indexed to the CPI, as we know in the last couple of years, we've had a huge amount of inflation.
Yeah.
So the inflation index last year was 7%. This year, it's bound to be about 3.5, 3.6%.
Something like that. I'd have to check.
So all they've said is, hey, guys, instead of your HEX being indexed to the consumer price index, it's going to be indexed to the wage price index.
And going forward, it will always switch between the two, whichever is lower.
Which I do like, okay?
Yeah, that's thinking ahead.
That's the part that they should have gone with first instead of the PR where we've wiped off $3 billion of debt.
People like big numbers.
I understand that, but you're already under a magnifying glass.
I know.
You're already under a magnifying glass. All you're allowing people to do is pick you apart and see, wait a second, that's PR. That's not actual $3 billion of debt. Your HEX debt, so summarizing this, your HEX debt is going to remain the same or it's going to increase by 3%. I'm not too sure what your HEX debt is right now, but that is essentially what is going to occur. It's not going to be wiped off. You're not going to be one of the lucky ones that has all your HEX debt wiped off and thanks government, you took care of my HEX debt. It's going to be a lower amount. Yeah. If you paid off your HEX in the last year, I would be contacting my tax agent and saying to them, hey, I want this to be indexed to last year and get it a part of the tax return. You've heard me on this podcast. You've heard me give, previous general advice.
General.
That if you want to get ahead or if you want to try and get ahead, possibly refinance your mortgage and use that to pay off your HEX debt. The people that I had those conversations with, they are now contacting their tax agents and they're going to make sure they get a tax return on what they had paid previously. In summary, you're not getting $3 billion wiped off your HEX debt.
No.
The government is losing $3 billion in revenue by not indexing your HEX debt to 7%, but rather indexing it to the wage price index.
Wage price index,
which was how much this year? So the wage price index is how much did wages increase by? And I think it was 3%.
It is 4.1%.
What?
Yes.
23 to 24.
Yeah, 23 to 24.
Okay, so
4.1%.
So it's going to be 4.1%. I thought it was actually lower than that.
I'll check what the consumer price index is.
CPI is higher. Right now, the wage price index is lower, so you're still going to
6.5.
6.5%. Jesus Christ!
That's for tertiary education.
Oh my God. Okay, so it's going to be at 4.1%.
Which is at least lower.
4.1%. It is considerably lower, but if you have a $40,000 HEX debt, that's still going to be roughly $1,200 that your HEX is going to increase.
Yeah.
So
my HEX is stuffed.
don't you have a master's?
No, I started one. I got a graduate certificate from Sydney and I was going to start a master's, but then I got a job and I was like, maybe I shouldn't go into further debt.
I have a previous client of mine that's a priest. And to become a priest, you have to get like a master's in theology.
Makes sense.
These guys have HEX debt for life.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine the salary of a priest is particularly high.
No. The salary of a good priest. You have to remember there's dodgy priests out there. Okay?
I suppose.
But that's cash off the books kind of thing,
Yeah.
Let's get into the losers.
Alrighty.
I've got two key losers for the Australian budget. Number one, all of us, because the big announcement was there was going to be a $300 saving on electrical bills for 12 months' time. Anthony Albanese promised when he was doing his election campaign in 2021, we're going to have cheaper mortgages, we're going to have cheaper electricity bills, we're going to have cheaper yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
He said every Australian is going to save $275 on their electricity bill back in 2021. Since then, so the average price of electricity for the average household was $1,400 per year. That has since increased to $1,900 a year.
Yeah.
That's a $500 increase. This $300 rebate that is coming from the government means that instead of your electricity increasing by $500, it's increasing by $200.
Look, it's better than absolutely nothing, but it is a Band-Aid solution and it doesn't really strike at the core of the reasons why this is happening.
It's only for 12 months. That's the first.
As I said, Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's the first issue. So it's going to be a $75 rebate that's paid to the energy company. It's not even paid to you.
Red flag one.
Yeah. So $75 off each of your bills. Great. Fantastic. Is anyone checking to see if the energy companies are going to magically increase their energy bills in that time?
I certainly hope so. They have mentioned that there will be oversight. I don't know, but they've also mentioned that the energy relief will also cut inflation, which is only technically correct. It will cut inflation, but once that rebate's gone, it'll just go back to where it was. And again, like you said, it's only for 12 months. It's kicking the can down the road.
It's really kicking the can down the road. And the second thing is, what was that election promise based on in the first place? Like, how did he think energy was going to drop in price? He didn't come out with any policy to say this is how we're going to decrease the price of energy. He just said, we're going to decrease it to $275.
Look, I think it was just a superficial promise.
And I understand people were sick of ScoMo and they were sick of Liberal and they were sick of COVID and everything. And, but own up to your error. Go out there and say, you know what, guys, I effed up. I promise you, if he went on stage and he goes, guys, I effed up. I said to you all that you'd be able to save $275 on your electricity bills every year. I didn't know that Ukraine and Russia were going to go to war. I didn't know there was going to be a war in Israel and Palestine. I didn't know that there was going to be all this economic tension over the next 4 years, because the previous 4 years there was barely any war.
There was not really.
There was nothing really going on. I didn't know this was going to happen. I'm sorry. Okay, I can't do that much because we have a tight budget right now. But here's a $300 rebate. If he said that, I promise you his election points would have gone up by 10.
Oh, well, it's interesting because I wonder if that just because usually when you admit as a politician when they admit something wrong, it's just fuel for your opponents to then.
But it's
sling
the
at
way
you.
that you word it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you go out and you admit fault, and you say, "Oh, it is my fault," or and you kind of quiver. But if you own it, you go out there and you actually own it, and you say, "You know what? This is my f up. I am so sorry, Australian public." Okay, but here's a $300 rebate. It's not enough. It's not going to be enough. Okay, I didn't know this was going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Say that. I don't have a crystal ball. And then people are going to be like, you know what? At least he's honest.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like that's politically risky. Politically risky. I'm not saying as a normal person, it's fine. It would be fine. I would be like, well, yeah, he doesn't have a crystal ball. But then people are like, well, we elected you to lead, and you don't know what's going on. There's so much you could spin those words into a proper negative against him. So hence why they just don't admit when they're wrong.
Okay.
That's not okay either. But.
Well, this is a part that is wrong, a part of the budget. And this got leaked afterwards. So there was money put aside for transport. And then we found out the Australian federal government spent $450 million on 2 brand new private jets. This one pissed me off. Because I understand you gave $300 out to every Australian. Mind you, Gina Reinhart should not be applicable for that $300 energy rebate. I'm just going to put that, it's got to be an income threshold. And by making it an income threshold, do you know what would have happened? It would have helped a lot of the lower income earners. If you told the lower income earners, hey, if you're earning over under $60,000, here's a $400 rebate. Okay, if you're earning between $60,000 and $75,000, here's a $200 rebate. People would be like, okay, that's cool. And then over $75,000, I'm sorry, you guys earn a lot of money. You're not going to get the rebate. I understand you're going to piss off a whole crowd there, or if you figured out a percentage or something. But I would have rather they done that. Anyways, Gina Reinhart, don't like her.
I don't think anybody does.
$450 million on 2 private jets. You're already under fire for taking 2 private jets to a net zero event in the Hunter Valley. Adam Bant is copping it for taking a private jet to random parties all across Australia when he's been preaching net zero and drop the carbon emissions and everything. And then you spend $450 million more on private jets. What are you doing?
So they weren't new. They didn't buy new private jets. But they did use 2 private jets to go to a clean energy announcement.
No. They have spent, this was recently leaked, as 4 days ago, they spent $450 million on 2 new private jets, okay?
Oh, I see.
Brand new
On
assets
Sky
that the
News.
Australian federal government has purchased. This is just frustrating. It's frustrating because I see so many people struggle every single day. I always say it, I like creating opportunity for people. I like to see people become prosperous. I like seeing people become wealthy. Why didn't we spend that money on education?
Oh, okay. So I don't disagree with you, by the way. So the 2 new aircraft are part of the RAF VIP fleet. So they are part of, they're part of the defense fleet, but obviously not. So basically the justification that they've used is, which I don't agree with, the Air Force told them they had to take 2 small jets for security reasons because one big jet couldn't land. Where was it? Wherever they were going at the runway because it was too small.
They couldn't rent?
Like I said, I don't know. I imagine they were like, well, 450 million compared to the 139 billion they're already spending on defense. Surely they can get lost in the mix. You know what I mean?
I just that really upset me, and I think the Australian public's the big loser in that one.
Oh yeah.
The energy thing. Let's just summarize it. Spending on renewables. You and I were cool.
Yep.
We like that. Okay. Is there a PR stunt in there? Yeah, there's a smidgen of a PR
there's
stunt.
PR in all of it.
Yeah. Defense, we need it. There's wars breaking out everywhere. War is a money-making machine. We all know that's a profit machine. But at the end of the day, I like my lights turning on. Okay? And that's a big part of, war in itself. The PR stuff, Hex, okay, come on, man. Come on. Who are you trying to kid?
Yeah.
So that was a massive PR stunt. We all kind of noticed that. The energy stuff, I think the Australian public's a massive loser for that one, just because we were promised something.
I mean, we've been losers for the energy stuff since it was privatized.
That's also true.
I don't think there's any fixing that unless we nationalize it, which obviously is not going to happen anytime soon.
It can't happen now.
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
take the energy off someone else's company and say it's ours now. We're not Saudi Arabia and just go, no, get out.
Yeah. When people would even like then get into a rage that it's communism and stuff like that.
That's exactly right. And then the last big loser yet again is us, because our government's just gone ahead and spent money where it shouldn't have been spent. They didn't think it. I don't think that the Treasurer, I don't think Albo, I don't think they thought it through clearly enough. And I just believe that we could have done more.
What do you for
Australia?
Yeah. Well, before we sign off on that, I want to know, because housing, there's almost $4 billion spent on additional housing and real estate. So $1 billion for just straight up new housing, 423 billion to combat homelessness, which is a growing issue in Australia because of cost of living and stuff like that, and rent's going crazy. 1.9 billion for rent assistance. So renters, that should be a 10% uplift in their...
I had a look at that.
Yeah.
I think it's a maximum of like $11 or $16 a week. It's something like that. So it's nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy.
The social housing...
That's 1.9 billion for social housing, new affordable social housing.
I like that, but I've also seen the other side of it, and I see that whenever there's a government quote that comes into a tradie, they just tack on extra zeros, because the government doesn't sit there and does it cost, like they don't.
Yeah. There's just
they don't effectively
is.
model it. They say, electricity costs $200,000. Okay, bang, they tick it off. I just wish that there was more visibility for each project and how much each social housing project was going to cost.
Yeah, I mean that we could ask that for as many government programs if there's just more visibility in general.
Well, I think that's.
I don't disagree at all. Yeah,
I think that's a good note to finish on, because we're smarter than what we used to be 40 years ago. We've got more access to information on the internet. Okay, people aren't stupid. We're not dumb anymore. You can't just go and write a $200,000 check and hand it off somewhere.
No one's going to notice.
No one's going to know. We need to start having visibility on the costs of these projects.
Yeah.
So that we can have a better Australia and get rid of the NIMBYs. That's my final comment.
Oh, the NIMBYs. Oh, the NIMBYs. They ruined Sydney.
So what do you think of the Australian federal budget? Who do you think the winners are? Who do you think the lures? Who do you think the losers are? We'd love to hear from you guys. Drop a comment below. And lastly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We got like 2,000 views on one of our podcasts.
Yeah, there's some of you guys are showing up. Welcome.
As we'd say in Arabic, ahla wa sahla.
I don't have any Arabic.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to our episode on the winners and losers of the Australian 2024 budget. I'm Joe. That's Schmo. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys.